This young man was the most elite Special Forces soldier in the South Korean military. Staring through his scope was a terrorist holding a hostage. The terrorist was strapped with explosives. One small slip-up, and everything would turn to dust. His superiors, fearing for the hostage's safety, didn't dare take any risks, only ordering the bus to be surrounded. The situation was extremely tense. The soldier felt that if he just lay in wait for orders, he wouldn't be able to save the hostage. In a split-second decision, Sol-woo decided to disobey orders and act on his own. He quickly shouldered his sniper rifle, jumped from the rooftop, and changed his firing angle. Without a moment's hesitation, he coolly pulled the trigger, sending the terrorist to meet his maker, much to everyone's astonishment. Although he successfully rescued the hostage, he was arrested for disobeying orders. He was then taken to the Central Intelligence Agency. There, prosecutors attempted to investigate his background, but to no avail. Even a lie detector test couldn't find a crack in his testimony. His superiors were impressed by his talent and composure. Therefore, they offered Sol-woo a position as a national intelligence agent. In South Korea, there are 3 types of agents. White agents operate openly under their real names. Black agents are anonymous and work in the shadows. Finally, the most dangerous are the ghost agents. Those who assume false identities, are deeply embedded within organizations, and operate clandestinely. His superiors wanted him to become a ghost and operate overseas. Sol-woo was intrigued by this new level of operation. He readily accepted the offer. His first overseas mission was to get close to the daughter of an Italian mafia boss. Posing as a university professor, he easily gained access to and befriended the boss's daughter. His encyclopedic knowledge and devastating good looks quickly made her fall in love with him. Thus, he achieved his goal of getting close to the mafia boss. At this point, Sol-woo no longer concealed his true identity. He confidently threatened the boss, knowing his secret that he had once been an agent himself. His main objective in this mission was not to take down the boss, but to use him. Everything went according to plan. When the boss had him kidnapped, he was imprisoned in the most secure prison in the world, a place teeming with terrorists and notorious gang leaders. Getting in was difficult, but getting out was even harder. His main mission this time was to rescue a foreign agent who was being held captive. For an ordinary person, this would be an impossible mission, but for Sol-woo, it was child's play. After observing and understanding all the activities within the prison, he and the foreign agent quietly prepared their escape plan. First, they gathered components to build a bomb to cause a power outage. Then, thanks to a slip of paper tucked into the crack of their cell door, he and his fellow prisoner were able to unlock their cell. During the blackout, they were discovered shortly after escaping. The guards quickly organized a team to recapture the prisoners, but their efforts were futile as Sol-woo successfully escaped through a hidden tunnel. There was only one final step to complete the mission, ending his relationship with the boss's daughter. He decided to fake his own death to end the relationship. The final mission was successfully completed. He hadn't had much time to rest before a new mission arose. An agent had been eliminated from the organization, disappearing after sending one final message: "Find the 3 carved wooden statues. They hold a national secret." One of the statues was located in the secret villa of a Russian terrorist leader, Victor. To infiltrate a secret birthday party held by Victor, Sol-woo had to become the personal bodyguard of a famous A-list star, the actor Weakling, who specialized in martial arts action roles. By the actor's side was his devoted fan and close manager, Do-ha. While investigating his target, Sol-woo was unexpectedly caught in the act by this manager. She mistook him for a reporter and deleted the photos he had secretly taken. Returning to his secret base, he was impressed by this strong-willed woman, a rose with thorns. Although he could recover the deleted data, it wasn't enough. Information related to his mission remained a blank slate. Today was the day of Weakling's commercial shoot, so everyone was prepared from early morning. While stepping out onto the balcony for some fresh air, Do-ha suddenly spotted the sneaky reporter from the previous day. Not only did she spot him, but she also witnessed his entire pickpocketing trick. Do-ha stealthily followed him while he was unaware and quickly subdued him, catching him red-handed. This commotion caused a stir among the film crew. Everyone's attention was drawn to the captured thief. Just then, the company director rushed over in a panic, telling her to let him go. Before Du-ha could understand the situation, Sol-woo had her in a firm hold. He proudly introduced himself as their new security chief. This grand introduction impressed everyone except for Woon Gwang, who was displeased. He didn't want a bodyguard hired by his ex-girlfriend's company following him around. He wouldn't even wear the red shirt his ex had given him. Despite outwardly displaying his hatred for his ex, Woon Gwang felt differently inside. He could only stare blankly as the car carrying his first love drove away, a lingering sense of regret washing over him. Seeing her brother so dejected, his manager came over to comfort him. She devised a plan to get rid of the bodyguard. First, they would hire him. With her brother's difficult personality, the bodyguard was sure to quit on his own. Although her brother felt her plan was a bit cruel, Woon Gwang enthusiastically agreed. The next day, Du-ha called the new bodyguard to the office for an interview. Despite being mentally prepared, Sol-woo didn't expect her tricky questions. All his answers satisfied the manager. She remarked that he possessed all the qualities opposite to Woon Gwang. Thus, they began planning to welcome the bodyguard on his first day. His first task was to wake up their client. The difficult client had deliberately burrowed under the covers to make things difficult for him. Sol-woo was exasperated to see a lazy worm before him. He coolly picked up the alarm clock and went into the bathroom. From his investigative report, Sol-woo knew that the actor enjoyed tormenting others, a twisted sadist, tough on the weak and weak against the strong. To handle his employer's arrogance, Sol-woo had built a time bomb and hung it over the bed. He warned his client that if he didn't press the button, the bomb would explode. Woon Gwang was terrified at the sight but tried to reassure himself. He assumed it was just a fake that the bodyguard had created to trick him. Sol-woo calmly explained the bomb's construction and function, stepping back to start the countdown. Seeing his serious expression, Woon Gwang began to fear for his safety. He scrambled out of bed in a panic to disarm the bomb. Just as Sol-woo had predicted, the first task waking Woon Gwang was complete. Sol-woo left satisfied, leaving the actor fuming. His next scheduled activity was filming. Just because the highway was jammed, he took his frustration out on others, a typical childish tantrum. He continuously nagged his bodyguard, blaming him for making him late. Sol-woo maintained a cool, serious demeanor, indulging his client. He opened the car door, pulled Woon Gwang out, and they both started running to make it on time. Everyone was surprised by this unexpected turn of events. Du-ha quickly chased after the two men to the train station. She was a step too late as the train started to move, helplessly watching her brother leave with a strange man. The timing was perfect, as they arrived at the studio 8 minutes early. Woon Gwang wasn't particularly concerned about that. He was more worried about being recognized on the train, but after looking around and seeing no one paying attention, he felt annoyed. Sol-woo, perceptive as always, stepped aside to make him more visible. As soon as the A-list star was spotted on the train, the crowd swarmed him, taking pictures and asking for autographs. Thanks to this incident, Woon Gwang's name topped the search trends. From then on, his attitude towards his bodyguard changed, surprising Du-ha. From the way he addressed him to his gestures, everything became more cordial. While Sol-woo was getting used to his new role, his superiors were working hard to find information about the missing agent. He had teamed up with Ma-yoon to purchase information. She was Woon Gwang's first love and the one who had arranged for Sol-woo to become his bodyguard. Now, she was the wife of Congressman Seung-yi, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Seung-yi would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. He had partnered with another congressman to search for the 3 wooden statues. Things were becoming increasingly dangerous with a second organization involved. With their strong financial resources, they had many skilled agents at their disposal, powerful enough to threaten Sol-woo. They were even responsible for the kidnapping of the missing high-ranking agent. The manager was irritated all day because the bodyguard had taken it upon himself to run with the A-list star on the highway. It wasn't until nightfall that she had the chance to meet with the bodyguard to discuss the matter. Du-ha wanted him to explain today's events. What if the actor had been in danger on the train? Would he have taken responsibility? But Sol-woo confidently stated that everything was under control. He was aware of anyone approaching the actor. From the train schedule to the passengers present, everything was within his grasp. There was nothing for her to worry about. Du-ha was impressed by what he had done. but still wanted to maintain her authority. She declared firmly, "I know everything about my brother, where he is, what he's doing." Just then, the alarm Sol Wu had set started ringing. It turned out Woon Guang had snuck out of the house because he wanted fried chicken. After much effort, he finally reached the chicken restaurant. Before he could take a bite of the first drumstick, a chopstick flew through the air and pierced the chicken. Woon Guang turned around in fright to see his manager standing there. He quickly grabbed the chicken and ran, with his manager in hot pursuit. Luckily, Sol Wu appeared just in time to pull him into a corner. But since Woon Guang was on a diet, he couldn't let him eat the chicken. At that moment, Du Ha also spotted them. She was stunned to see the pair gazing intensely at each other. Noticing her sister's injured leg, Woon Guang gently supported her, checking to see if it hurt. It was this gentle, caring gesture that had made her his devoted fan. The next day, the director came to the house to announce the party guests. Sol Wu couldn't hide his excitement when he learned he was also invited. Today was also the first day of shooting for the new movie. Woon Guang was about to enter the studio when he quickly turned around. He had seen his ex-girlfriend waiting at the gate. Noticing his client's anxiety, Sol Wu offered to handle the ex for him. With his eloquence and superb acting skills, he managed to intimidate the ex-girlfriend into leaving after a brief conversation. Woon Guang was surprised to see the stubborn woman leave. He was pleased with the bodyguard's performance. Their bond grew stronger. In today's script, there was a scene where Woon Guang had to drive himself. The director wanted to use a stunt double, but he refused. He wanted to perform the scene himself, unaware that someone was planning to harm him. Sol Wu had also noticed a suspicious person lurking near the actor's car. Before he could intervene, Woon Guang drove off to film the scene. Things took a serious turn when the car's brakes failed, sending it careening off the film set. Sol Wu calmly commandeered a nearby vehicle and gave chase. With the skills of a top-tier special agent, he effortlessly closed the gap, executing a precise drift to block the runaway car before it plunged into a ravine. Woon Guang, unconscious, was rushed to the hospital. Everyone anxiously awaited news of the actor's condition. Sol Wu overheard that this wasn't the first accident for Woon Guang. A previous action scene had also involved a car losing control. Sol Wu suspected the vehicle inspector he had seen tampering with the brake lines. The inspector's gait suggested military training. His ability to vanish without a trace further indicated his exceptional skills. Woon Guang was crucial to Sol Wu's covert mission, making his safety paramount. While comatose, Woon Guang relived painful memories. The previous accident had cost him everything, including his girlfriend, who left him to marry someone else. During this darkest period, he met Du Ha, who was also grappling with the recent loss of a loved one. Fate brought these two wounded souls together, leading her to become his manager. After a period of hospitalization, Woon Guang fully recovered and was discharged. Grateful to Sol Wu, his lifesaver, and shaken by his near-death experience, his confidence had plummeted. He offered Sol Wu a lucrative deal to become his 24/7 bodyguard. Though reluctant to get further entangled, Sol Wu accepted. News of Woon Guang's accident spread online, much to the satisfaction of Seung Yi, the mastermind behind the incident. He subtly probed his wife, Ma Yoon, to gauge her lingering feelings for her former lover. She deflected his questions, avoiding the topic. However, while her husband was away, she discreetly investigated the cause of Woon Guang's accident. The findings mirrored the car accident from 7 years prior. All traces erased from the scene. The sole suspect vanished. Her superiors suspected Seung Yi, but Ma Yoon doubted it, as her husband was the film's investor. However, the investigator warned her to be cautious, describing Seung Yi as a wolf in sheep's clothing. He reminded her of their agreement. Meanwhile, Sol Wu prepared to infiltrate Chairman Victor's home. But a new obstacle arose. Woon Guang had suspended all activities, including attending Chairman Victor's secret birthday party. The entire plan would collapse without Woon Guang's participation. Sol Wu resorted to desperate measures to reignite Woon Guang's enthusiasm for work, even impersonating a woman. His soulful eyes and goofy smile surprised everyone, even himself. Du Ha received a call from the prison. Her father wanted to see her, but she knew he only wanted money. She resented constantly bailing out her deadbeat father. To drown her sorrows, Du-ha met a friend for drinks. Despite claiming to be at a bar, she had memorized her father's inmate number for money transfers. A notebook meticulously documented every transaction. Returning home drunk, Du-ha stumbled towards Sol-woo's room, but he quickly spotted her and locked the door. Thinking he'd deterred her, he was mistaken. With a mischievous grin, Du-ha produced a spare key, leaving a defeated Sol-woo no choice but to listen to her drunken ramblings. She confessed that after her father's imprisonment, creditors harassed her at his funeral, demanding she repay his debts. Du-ha contemplated ending it all, but then she met Woon Gwang. He, she explained, showed her that someone could be even more unfortunate than herself, having been dumped by his girlfriend who then married the chairman of a prominent corporation. Exhausted, she collapsed on the bed and fell asleep. Sol-woo, having heard her story, devised a plan to get the actor back to work, exploit his ex-girlfriend. Over beers, Sol-woo skillfully stoked Woon Gwang's buried emotions, revealing that he was a bodyguard sent by the ex-girlfriend herself, who, he claimed, was a major shareholder in the company. Woon Gwang was shocked but quickly tried to recruit Sol-woo to his side. Sol-woo refused, stating he only served those of higher rank. This fueled Woon Gwang's resentment, and the next morning, he returned to work. His first engagement, billionaire Victor's birthday party. Security was impenetrable, admitting only guests with invitations. Inside, Sol-woo quickly deployed a special tracking device to map the building. Chairman Victor, the party's host, enthusiastically invited him to view his private collection after the festivities. Woon Gwang was escorted to the secret room. Everything was proceeding according to Sol-woo's plan, but at the last minute, Woon Gwang insisted Sol-woo join him, jeopardizing the plan to steal a wooden statue. Forced to improvise, Sol-woo entered the room. He had only 3 minutes. Before the party, he'd met with Russian intelligence, offering them incriminating evidence against Victor in exchange for a targeted EMP burst. Now he had to resort to Plan B. The secret room was filled with global artifacts, but Sol-woo focused on a small wooden statue in a corner. The EMP hit, disabling all electronics and triggering a security lockdown. Despite the disruption, Victor continued the party. While everyone was distracted by a performance, Sol-woo slipped away unnoticed. He infiltrated the 3rd floor, where the secret room was located. Despite the heightened security, he easily bypassed it, neutralizing the guards outside the room. He smashed the display case, grabbed the statue, and had it smuggled out. Du-ha, noticing Sol-woo's absence, frantically searched for him. She reached the staircase just as he leaped from an upper floor, pursued by 2 guards. Sol-woo grabbed her, feigning a romantic embrace as a distraction. Once safe, he coldly told her, "Forget what you just saw." He returned to the party, leaving a bewildered Du-ha. Suddenly, Russian forces stormed the party, arresting Victor. Chaos erupted. Back at the hotel, preparing to leave the country, Du-ha, still suspicious, confronted Sol-woo. She demanded the truth, but he remained evasive. To deflect her questions, he unleashed a barrage of charming flattery. In a moment of vulnerability, Du-ha was momentarily swayed, and Sol-woo seized the opportunity to escape. The covert mission was a success. The wooden statue was transported back to Korea. X-raying it revealed a hidden key fragment. 2 more fragments, hidden within 2 other wooden statues, were needed to complete the key. This was the crux of the mission. With the mission's initial phase complete, Sol-woo was ready to shed his bodyguard persona. He planned to fake a car explosion, a tactic from his overseas missions, but his superiors forbade it. In Korea, he could only disappear through resignation or dismissal. Relishing the prospect of acting out and getting fired, Sol-woo embraced his inner diva, stealing the lead actor's chair and treating everyone with disdain. This backfired. Woon Gwang simply assumed his bodyguard was overworked. Only Du-ha misinterpreted his behavior as jealousy over her hugging someone else. That evening, the team celebrated their success with hot pot. Sol-woo broke his own rule, drinking on the job. This deepened Du-ha's misunderstanding, leading her to drink excessively. Alarmed by her unchecked consumption, Sol-woo intervened, fearing a repeat of her drunken room invasion. Du-ha, however, mistook his attempts to stop her drinking as a sign of affection. Following him outside, she rambled, "I can't reciprocate your feelings, so can we just remain colleagues?" Sol-woo refused. His actions were solely aimed at getting fired, and he wasn't about to start over. The next morning, Sol Wu tendered his resignation to Woon Guang, who refused to accept it, insisting Sol Wu was his best friend. Sol Wu coldly left the letter and walked away, leaving Woon Guang dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Du Ha visited her father in prison, annoyed by his constant requests for money. He asked about a gift he'd given her, something precious he wanted her to keep until his release. Information about the second statue surfaced. It was in the possession of an antiquities dealer known as Goldfinger. Returning home, Du Ha learned of Sol Wu's resignation and immediately confronted him. Sol Wu laid his cards on the table, bluntly stating his dislike for her and her assumptions, which exhausted and irritated him. His harsh words wounded Du Ha, leaving her stunned and tearful as he walked away. Before he could leave the premises, his superiors called, rescinding his resignation. Frustrated by their interference, yet duty-bound, he accepted his new directive: manipulate Du Ha's feelings to achieve his ultimate goal. He abruptly changed his demeanor, pulling her into a passionate kiss that left her stunned. Shocked by his boldness, she slapped him. Despite his sweet-talking explanations, Du Ha remained unforgiving. Sol Wu left her standing there, reeling. His new target, Du Ha. He had to retrieve the ring her father had given her, the key to unlocking the secret of the second statue. While seduction was part of his skill set, this time, Sol Wu had a bad feeling. He returned to Woon Guang's house. Hearing Sol Wu's authoritative voice, a surprised Woon Guang bolted upright. His best friend was back. Only Du Ha felt awkward whenever she ran into Sol Wu on set. His flirting and intimate gestures gave her goosebumps. Woon Guang had also caught wind of the ambiguous nature of their relationship. He was curious to see his sister smiling brightly upon receiving messages from her bodyguard. His judgmental gaze, full of curiosity, fixed on her, their relationship gradually becoming the biggest question in Woon Guang's mind. Meanwhile, Sol Wu was breaking into the manager's house to search for a ring. Despite turning the place upside down, he couldn't find any clues. Frustrated with his mission, he was startled by the sudden ringing of his phone. Unexpectedly, it was his VIP client calling him. As it turned out, the VIP wanted to have dinner with his bodyguard at a fancy restaurant, conveniently using the opportunity to probe their relationship. While they were talking, a young boy approached, asking for a photo with his idol. Surprisingly, the boy turned out to be the son of the VIP's ex-girlfriend. Seeing the woman who had abandoned him during a difficult time dampened his mood. In the end, he decided to head home to clear his head. Woon Guang unexpectedly questioned his good friend about his romantic life. He felt sorry for Sol Wu for getting entangled in the situation. Sol Wu's mother had feelings for the manager, and the manager was interested in Gu Wang. But regardless of the reason, Du Ha was his sister. Therefore, if the bodyguard tried anything funny with her, he would break every bone in his body. The next day, Du Ha was furious that her brother knew about her relationship with Sol Wu. Why did you tell someone else? Sol Wu's mission seemed to have been compromised as his superiors were being followed. They were all high-ranking agents sent to tail the captain. The National Intelligence Service had caught wind of the wooden statue, so everyone decided to discuss the plan with Sol Wu. Things were moving faster than he had anticipated, so Sol Wu suggested using the wooden statue as bait, launching a preemptive strike. Captain Zhang would intentionally reveal the location of the statue exchange to lure them in. Once the target was in sight, the assassin fired directly at the car window, aiming to eliminate the opponent, but he didn't realize it was the thickest bulletproof glass. He went from being a cold-blooded hunter to vulnerable prey. Before he could escape, Sol Wu landed a critical shot in his shoulder, a fatal blow leaving him barely clinging to life. Attempting to escape with the skills of a ghost agent, he had prepared an escape route. He pulled out a smoke bomb to obstruct Sol Wu's vision. Thanks to Du Han, he was able to create an opening to escape the encirclement. Sol Wu, realizing the assassin's potential escape, switched his gun's firing mode to pursue him. But the assassin was a step ahead and successfully got away. This was the same man who had caused the accident involving the A-list actor. Given his skills, he wouldn't be easy to catch. After the preemptive strike failed, Sol Wu immediately drove to the manager's house to continue his other operation. In this romantic battle, he could only win, not lose. Du Ha was ultimately defeated by Sol Wu's sweet talk. He had touched her icy heart. Deciding to follow her heart, she leaned in and gave Sol Wu a warm kiss. Sol Wu's plan was a resounding success. He was now Du-ha's boyfriend. Suddenly, she received a phone call informing her that her father had been released. Du-ha quickly returned home to confirm the news. Upon seeing his daughter return home with her boyfriend, her father was overjoyed to meet his future son-in-law for the first time. To win over his girlfriend's father, Sol Wu decided to drink heavily with him. To Sol Wu, the man was a typical Korean con artist. Going in and out of jail was a regular occurrence for him. Only Du-ha felt uncomfortable as her father kept boasting about his work. Returning to base drunk, Sol Wu had also gathered crucial intelligence. The secret ring was still in Du-ha's possession, hidden in a rather unusual place. Not only the agents, but even Chairman Seung-yi was plotting to steal the ring. He had to get his hands on the key that could unlock this great secret at any cost. The next day, Captain Y received a lucrative offer from the enemy himself. Congressman B, after being cast aside by the chairman, had contacted the captain. He would provide crucial information about Seung-yi to the intelligence agency in exchange for a suitable reward. Today was the second day of the lovebirds' relationship. To impress Sol Wu, Du-ha had put on elaborate makeup. However, since they were keeping their relationship a secret, Sol Wu could only criticize her style, despite it being done for his benefit. This left Du-ha feeling a little hurt. Her father took advantage of her absence to search for the ring. Unfortunately, despite ransacking the house, he couldn't find it. Assuming his daughter had given the ring to her boyfriend, he arranged a meeting with Sol Wu to inquire about it. Disappointment clung to him when he learned Sol Wu didn't have the ring either. Suddenly, his daughter called, frantically reporting a burglary at their home. Both men rushed back to find the apartment in disarray, everything bearing the marks of Sol Wu's earlier search. Sol Wu recalled a black car parked in front of the house. He suspected it was the chairman's men. He rushed outside to check, but they had already sped away. Feeling the mission was becoming too risky, he decided to move in with Du-ha, both to protect the place and to facilitate his search for the ring. Meanwhile, Captain Yong was preparing a new plan. He would personally go to the scene to approach Du-ha's father. Their objective was to disguise themselves as monks searching for antiques, with the intention of buying the ring. Driven by greed, when offered a large sum of money, Du-ha's father could only hope his daughter would give him the ring. At that moment, Du-ha was on a date with her bodyguard. Their relationship was blossoming. While dining together, Sol Wu accidentally discovered that the ring wasn't hidden, but kept in a place known to Du-ha's father. It was just that his lack of sincerity prevented him from finding it. Suddenly, Sol Wu noticed he was being tailed. He took advantage of the cover of a wall to lose them. But this bold move made Du-ha's heart flutter. Even back at home, he remained vigilant, watching out for intruders. Witnessing his daughter's affection for her boyfriend touched her father. Finally, his daughter had found someone who could take care of her for life. As a father, he would certainly buy an apartment downtown as a dowry for Du-ha. So, the next morning, he went to the corporation to meet Chairman Seung-yi. He wanted to offer the ring for 2 billion won. The chairman, intrigued by the deal, sent someone to bring the cash. However, since he didn't have the ring with him, he stalled, offering a down payment for the transaction. The chairman gave him a high-end watch, along with a warning: if he gave the ring to anyone else, he would take back the watch along with his arm. He tried to persuade his daughter to give him the ring, but to no avail. Du-ha was truly angry that he always abandoned her for his own benefit. Even at the funeral, when she was being assaulted, he had remained silent and walked away. That was the last straw, severing their father-daughter bond. This time, he hadn't changed his ways, causing her even more pain and trouble. Later, besides comforting his girlfriend, Sol Wu advised her to think carefully before acting. If necessary, she should disown her father and never see him again. But if she felt filial piety, she should fulfill her duties carefully. Overwhelmed with emotion, Du-ha revealed that the ring was kept with her grandfather. If Dad sincerely changes, he should go see Grandpa to get the ring. Having learned the ring's location, Sol Wu immediately went to his grandfather's grave. The moment he saw the ring was the moment he abandoned his role as Du-ha's boyfriend. The next morning, Du-ha's father excitedly met with Sol Wu, recounting how he'd sold the ring to a famous chairman, showing off the watch he'd received in return. Sol Wu immediately recognized the watch as having a listening device. He frantically contacted Du-ha to ensure her safety, but it was too late. She had been kidnapped. Sol-woo, alone, set out to rescue her. After obtaining her location, he sprang into action, cautiously checking every corner, inching toward the shipping container emitting the tracking signal. As he prepared to open it, a sense of foreboding washed over him. With the experience of a top-tier agent, he reevaluated his steps. There were no guards, no security cameras. Only one possibility remained, a bomb behind the door. His gaze focused on a pile of wooden crates, where he spotted a countdown timer. Even for a seasoned operative, disarming a bomb was a gamble with death. He calmly snipped wires, the pressure mounting with each passing second. The real test came in the final 2 seconds. One wrong cut, and the bomb would detonate. Sol-woo hesitated at the green wire, but trusting his instincts, he decisively cut the red one, disabling the bomb. Once he was certain there was no further danger, he flung open the container door. Inside was a computer displaying a live feed of Du-ha in captivity. Rage surged through him as he listened to the captor's taunts, demanding the wooden statue and the ring in exchange for her life. Furious, Sol-woo shot the computer to pieces. Just then, the Special Forces team arrived, but they were too late. Before leaving, he quickly retrieved a fragment of the detonator. Using his unique connections, Sol-woo identified the individual who had supplied the bomb-making materials. He raced to the junkyard, the explosives dealer's hideout. The dealer, upon realizing Sol-woo was government-affiliated, instantly changed his demeanor, ordering his men to deal with the cop. Sol-woo, having no time for games, fired a warning shot at the approaching thugs. Simultaneously, he grabbed the dealer, demanding information. Meanwhile, Du-ha was being interrogated about the ring. The interrogator introduced himself as a member of the National Intelligence Service, claiming her capture was necessary to recover the ring her father possessed, a ring that supposedly threatened countless lives. Du-ha was skeptical. He pressed her, asking who else knew the ring's location. She realized only Sol-woo knew its secret. Adding to her suspicion were his strange actions at the chairman's birthday party. The interrogator's words resonated, planting seeds of doubt about Sol-woo's true identity. The traitorous agent's identity was uncovered by his superiors. Records indicated he had gone missing during an overseas mission. A nationwide manhunt was immediately initiated by the intelligence agency. To pinpoint the traitor's location, Sol-woo sought out Congressman Beek. He easily overpowered the congressman's bodyguards and held him at gunpoint. After obtaining the enemy's hideout, Sol-woo returned to base to prepare for the exchange. Despite being tightly guarded, Du-ha managed to steal a phone from one of the underlings and call her brother, Woon-gwang, for help. Stunned by the news of his sister's kidnapping, Woon-gwang rushed to Sol-woo's house for information. Sol-woo, emerging at that moment, mistook Woon-gwang for a threat and subdued him. After realizing Woon-gwang's identity, he explained his undercover role, much to Woon-gwang's anger. Sol-woo had deceived everyone to complete his mission. Despite his frustration, Woon-gwang knew rescuing Du-ha was paramount. He pleaded with Sol-woo to let him help. With time running out, they set off for the exchange location. Woon-gwang would pose as the negotiator, while Sol-woo infiltrated the warehouse where the hostages were held. Upon receiving the signal, Woon-gwang initiated the attack. A seasoned martial arts actor, he held his own against the initial wave of enemies. Inside, Sol-woo confronted the traitorous agent. They clashed fiercely, both highly trained special agents evenly matched. Though pressured, Sol-woo calmly neutralized the situation, ensuring the hostages' safety while subduing the guards. He severely wounded the traitor, rendering him helpless. He quickly untied Du-ha and checked on her. She was relieved to see him. Suddenly, Woon-gwang's shouts broke the brief moment of respite. Realizing the fight outside was still raging, Sol-woo rushed out to assist him. Together, they overpowered the remaining enemies just as the Special Forces team arrived. The hostage rescue was a success. Sol-woo watched his girlfriend from a distance, unable to approach her. The recovery of the ring signaled the time for his disappearance. After carefully entrusting Du-ha's care to his superiors, he vanished into the night without a trace. One of the targets remained at large. He immediately called Chairman Sung-deur to report the failure. Sung-deur was furious about the lost ring. To punish the incompetent operative, he ordered the loose ends tied up permanently. Useless hounds should be eliminated. To save himself, during interrogation, the operative used a special forces signal to summon Sol Wu. He revealed the location where his superior had disappeared. His terms were simple: help him escape, and he would hand over the evidence and the identity of the person who actually killed his superior. There are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Sol Wu agreed to his terms. Meanwhile, after their rescue, the manager and Woon Guang were promptly asked by their superiors to sign national security non-disclosure agreements. However, Du Ha refused. Determined to confront Sol Wu and get answers, she insisted on seeing him. The captain, left with no other choice, relented. The reunion between the manager and Du Ha was awkward. Although he longed to inquire about her injuries, Sol Wu remained silent. He knew his duty as a government agent precluded any romantic involvement. He could only reveal the truth about his mission. While unable to provide specific details, he made it clear that the operation was complete, and he would be leaving quietly. Du Ha was devastated by the news of his departure. Clinging to a sliver of hope, she asked, "Your feelings were fake, weren't they?" Sol Wu coldly replied, "As an agent, I have to lie frequently. My feelings for you were merely a tool for this mission." Du Ha was stunned. The sense of betrayal shattered her tough exterior. Despite the heartbreak, she signed the agreement and suggested they talk again tomorrow, once they had calmed down. Unbeknownst to Du Ha, it was her brother who had arranged for Kim, the bodyguard, to disappear from her life. While feeling guilty, he believed it was the only way to protect his little sister. As planned, the next morning, Sol Wu impersonated the chairman and went to the hotel. He worked with another agent to deceive the hotel staff. After obtaining Woon Guang's auction pass, he quickly removed his disguise and returned to his duties. Romance was now a hindrance to his urgent mission. He could only silently watch Du Ha standing outside the door alone. He couldn't give her any false hope. Rumors of Sol Wu assaulting Woon Guang spread rapidly through the company. Everyone assumed Sol Wu had finally snapped under pressure. But Woon Guang's primary concern was his sister's emotional state. After the bodyguard's departure, she was deeply hurt and no longer trusted anyone. Unable to bear his sister's suffering, Woon Guang sought out Sol Wu. He offered him his job back as his bodyguard, but Sol Wu refused. For him, that identity was over. The next day, the news of Du Ha's father's arrest for suspected murder left her in shock. Calling the captain and pleading for help, she feared the ring was the reason for her father's imprisonment. However, due to national security concerns, the captain couldn't reveal anything. He could only ask for her trust and assure her he was handling the situation. But she couldn't just sit and wait. Neither the National Intelligence Service nor the prosecutor's office seemed trustworthy. The only person who could help her father now was Sol Wu. She begged her brother to take her to him so she could plead for his assistance. Sol Wu felt immense guilt for her father's involvement in his mission. His awkwardness piqued Woon Guang's curiosity. He urged Sol Wu to tell him what help he needed. Anything related to national security or Du Ha, he was willing to do. Given the green light, Sol Wu didn't hesitate to ask for a loan of $5 million, leaving Woon Guang stunned. The intelligence agency was facing internal sabotage. The deadline was 12 o'clock noon the next day. Any later, and it would be too late. Du Ha, distrustful of Sol Wu, advised her brother against lending him the money. After much deliberation, Woon Guang finally decided to invest in him. As long as he could guarantee Du Ha's father's release from prison, money was no object. Even though his older brother agreed to lend him the money, Du Ha needed collateral. Sol Wu's signature on a contract essentially selling himself. He was obligated to return to his role as Sol Wu, stay by Vip's side 24/7, and never disappear unexpectedly again. Only after reporting everything to his creditor would he receive the $5 million. The National Intelligence Service NIS was in utter chaos. Seung Yi, searching for the congressman's replacement, contacted the team captain. He arranged a meeting at an army restaurant to make an offer. If Captain Y handed over the 2 missing keys, Seung Yi would back him for the position of NIS director. Although he firmly refused the offer, it still troubled him, especially with his close colleague, Captain Lin, imprisoned. Today marked Sol Wu's return. Everyone on the team welcomed him back, except for Woon Guang, who was less than cheerful. It was the day they were going to the bank to withdraw the operational funds, and Woon Guang repeatedly reminded him of the $5 million, hoping he would change his mind. But all he received in return was a pleading look and an affectionate call of "Hyung, older brother." It was the first time Woon Gwang had seen his friend act this way. He hesitated for a long time before finally transferring the money. However, it came with a condition. He had to arrange a meeting with Ma Yoon for him. There were things Woon Gwang needed to confirm with his ex-girlfriend. This operation required both of their participation. Using satellite technology, he quickly pinpointed Ma Yoon's location. The plan commenced with Woon Gwang planting a jamming device under her car. While her bodyguard checked the vehicle, Sol-woo would swiftly steal the car keys from him and then approach Ma Yoon to take her to where his brother was waiting. They only had 5 minutes to talk. He desperately wanted to know why she had abandoned him. No matter how she denied it, when Woon Gwang looked into his ex-girlfriend's eyes, he knew she was lying. He firmly declared that he would no longer yield to her husband. Whatever obstacles her husband threw in the way of their filming, he wouldn't back down. Before leaving, Ma Yoon gave him a piece of advice: never confront her husband and never see her again. The following day, at the hotel hosting the rare antiquities auction, Miss agents were already in place to apprehend Sol-woo. Consequently, he couldn't directly participate in the auction and had to rely on Woon Gwang and his manager. He would stay in the car, providing backup if any trouble arose. The tight security at the auction made Do-ha feel pressured. No matter where she turned, she felt watched. Observing her tension, Sol-woo talked to her to ease her anxiety. He told her to just act natural and confident in front of them. He would handle the rest. Congressman BCH's side also started making moves. He tasked the traitor with cleaning up the mess. Not only was he present, but so were the men who had previously kidnapped Do-ha. The auction finally commenced, beginning with stolen, high-value antiquities. After numerous bids, the wooden statue finally appeared with a starting price of $100,000. Not only their group, but also Chairman Seung-yi had someone bidding on his behalf. No matter how high Woon Gwang bid, Seung-yi would outbid him. The price escalated exponentially, from $100,000 to $3 million. Woon Gwang's funds were dwindling. Sol-woo decided to implement Plan B. Do-ha would approach the target and activate a signal jammer, preventing him from bidding. Simultaneously, Woon Gwang would time the final bid. Although Do-ha reached the target, Woon Gwang, still reluctant to spend more money, hesitated to extend the bidding time. Do-ha was forced to create a distraction in the auction hall. Thanks to her natural acting skills, she helped Woon Gwang successfully win the bid for the wooden statue. The second step of the plan was for Do-ha to retrieve the wooden statue from the reception desk. After successfully confirming her identity, she quickly took her suitcase up to her room. But before the elevator doors could close, a special agent recognized her. He quickly alerted his accomplices who were lying in wait. Sol-woo also appeared at this moment to support his girlfriend. He easily took down the guards blocking his path to the rendezvous point where Do-ha was waiting. But someone else had arrived before him, the traitor who had escaped. He grabbed the briefcase containing the wooden statue and left, but was stopped by security. They wanted to steal the artifact and eliminate the traitor. At the most critical moment, Sol-woo appeared. The two of them effortlessly took down the guards together. It turned out that this man was a secret ally Sol-woo had planted within the enemy ranks. After successfully handing over the wooden statue, Sol-woo would help him fake an explosion, allowing him to disappear completely. This was the condition for their cooperation. He would also hand over evidence that would clear Do-ha's father's name. A large explosion caused chaos in the hall. Seung-yi was furious that his plans had been ruined. Victory belonged to Sol-woo once again. After retrieving the key hidden inside the second statue, Do-ha suggested that her brother hold onto both statues for safekeeping. Sol-woo promised to pay him back the $5 million he owed once the NIST director returned. He then met with team leader Y to deliver the evidence that would prove Do-ha's father's innocence. When he asked about the next step in the plan, team leader Y told him to stand down and wait for the director's return, assuring him that everything would be resolved then. Despite his suspicions about the team leader's words, he agreed to comply. The next day, Do-ha's father was released from custody. He was surprised to see Sol-woo with his daughter. He still held resentment towards Sol-woo due to his past behavior. Even Do-ha couldn't figure out who the real Sol-woo was. He acted like a ghost, appearing and disappearing, always leaving people on edge. Meanwhile, back at the base, Sol Wu discovered a hidden notebook belonging to his senior, which likely contained valuable information for his mission. Unlike his previous solo operations, this time, Sol Wu texted his manager before taking action. He even thoughtfully left behind the access code to the base in case anything happened to him. After retrieving his senior's notebook, he quickly returned only to find Du Ha pointing a gun directly at his face. Although it wasn't a real gun, she still shot him repeatedly out of frustration. To appease his girlfriend, he decided to install a tracking device on her phone. Their relationship began to take a new turn. In contrast to the blossoming romance, Woon Guang was worried about getting his $5 million back. The assemblyman was constantly on television, demanding the dismissal of the NIST director. His only hope now rested with Sol Wu. He needed him to stay safe so he could repay his debt. The next day, NIST agents arrived to question Sol Wu. Fortunately, he was out buying breakfast. Thanks to the siblings' coordinated efforts, they managed to send the agent away. Now, their every move was being monitored by agents. Internal strife within the NIST was escalating. Team leader Yang was summoned for questioning about the list of still active ghost agents. The National Assembly continued to apply pressure, making everything more difficult, especially the release of the $5 million to pay back Woon Guang. He had to regretfully inform his brother of the bad news. Now, Sol Wu would have to work tirelessly to repay his debt. The latest operational plan involved working as a 24/7 bodyguard for a celebrity. Seung Yi once again presented a new deal to the team leader. He would help him capture the assemblyman and save the NIST from chaos. Faced with an offer he couldn't refuse, team leader Y finally accepted. This time, their cooperation signaled a difficult battle ahead. The chairman had contacted the Russians to acquire the third statue. Now, everything was against Sol Wu. Furthermore, Du Han interfered with Woon Guang's filming, causing every location to refuse to work with the actor. Everyone had become a target. Even if the NIST abandoned him, Sol Wu would always be a good brother to Woon Guang. This made Sol Wu feel incredibly guilty. He decided to meet with Du Ha one last time to say goodbye, believing his presence was jeopardizing their operation. Du Ha, however, decided to be brave and try to keep him there. She suggested they launch Operation Date, with their first mission being a simple noodle outing. They worked together to annoy the tail following them. Du Ha wondered if the agent ever spoke truthfully or if everything was just a disguise. Sol Wu coldly replied, "As an agent, there's no downtime, and you can't trust anyone but yourself." However, since they were now on Operation Date, he would play the part of the perfect boyfriend. They spent the day clinging to each other, fueling speculation among their colleagues. False rumors even spread throughout the company that Du Ha was pregnant. It was all a charade to help Sol Wu escape the scrutiny of Chief Yan. Chief Yan delivered some bad news. The director, after his business trip, had failed to retrieve the third wooden statue. It now belonged to the Russian billionaire, Victor. Therefore, Sol Wu was being removed from the next phase of the statue retrieval operation. Until further orders, he was to maintain his current cover. Suddenly, Sol Wu questioned whether his predecessor's exposed identity was due to the chief. He was curious why this mission was so reckless. Though taken aback by the difficult question, the chief quickly replied, "I bear some responsibility for my predecessor's death, so I want to be the one to finish this mission." But it seemed like a lie to keep Sol Wu complacent. The chairman's men had given him a dossier incriminating a congressman. As per their agreement, he now held the congressman's weakness, making his downfall easy. At the interrogation the following day, Chief Yan presented evidence proving the congressman's connection to a traitor. This sent shockwaves through the room. Everyone murmured about the incriminating photograph of the two together. Rival politicians seized the opportunity to attack the congressman, further solidifying their own positions. The congressman met with Chairman Seung Yi to pledge his loyalty, assuring him that he would take control of Sol Wu City. Sol Wu refused to wait passively. He contacted a Russian agent to inquire about the third wooden statue. He had also deciphered a hidden message within his predecessor's notebook, a final clue. Only one person could provide the answer, a priest his predecessor frequently visited at a local church. The code was deeply connected to the Bible, leading Sol Wu to deduce the priest's name. Despite visitors, the priest remained indifferent. Only when Sol Wu mentioned his predecessor's name did he react, expressing surprise at his death. However, he refused to divulge anything further until Sol Wu recited a specific Bible verse about the war in heaven, a cataclysmic battle against a dragon. After confirming Sol Wu's identity, the priest revealed that Chief Yan was the one who frequently met with his predecessor at the church. But on their final meeting, the chief had brought along a close colleague, Chief Lin. Sol Wu was stunned by this revelation. Even his closest superior was an enemy. At the same time, Chief Yan was meeting with the chairman. The two were in cahoots. The chairman demanded a demonstration of loyalty, Sol Wu's life. The chief arranged a secret meeting with Sol Wu to hand over a key. Despite knowing the true purpose of the meeting, Sol Wu went. He decided to gamble his fate on the two keys. Would they help him collect all three, or would they fall into the enemy's hands? Before anything could be said, Russian guards appeared, heavily armed. Sol Wu had been betrayed by his own boss. Chief Yan coldly drew his gun and fired a fatal shot, sending Sol Wu plummeting into the river below. As Sol Wu sank into the depths, Chief Yan called the chairman, satisfied. While he hadn't captured Sol Wu alive, sending him to a watery grave in the icy winter was enough. Sol Wu slowly regained consciousness. He dragged himself along, a critical wound bleeding profusely. The only person who could save him now was the traitorous agent. Compared to a doctor, a former agent was far more trustworthy. The agent was also surprised by Sol Wu's trust in him. Sol Wu knew full well that the agent could easily dispose of him and make him disappear completely. But he chose to trust him because he knew the agent's vendetta against the chairman was still unresolved. The captain's shot was precise, hitting a non-lethal spot, requiring a high level of marksmanship. The bullet was also a message for Sol Wu to disappear for a while, leaving everything to the captain. Du Hao was worried because she couldn't reach her boyfriend. She called her brother, Woon Guang, who reassured her that Sol Wu hadn't run off with the 5 million. He was likely to get back to her soon. Just then, footsteps slowly approached. It was Sol Wu, returning, severely wounded, to see his girlfriend. Seeing him in such critical condition made So-ha's heart stop. After his girlfriend tended to his wounds, his condition finally stabilized. Woon Guang, after hearing about his friend's injury, rushed over to check on him. Sol Wu recounted how he had been shot by the captain to complete the wooden statue mission, even if it meant sacrificing his best agent. Captain Lin, after days of enduring hardship, was finally released from prison. He met his own captain to inquire about the mission's status, especially concerning his close subordinate. Seeing his captain's hesitation, Lin understood something shady had transpired during his imprisonment. The third statue would reach the intelligence agency the next day, thanks to the note Sol Wu had unexpectedly left for him. He asked who had revealed his predecessor's identity, causing the mission to fail. He grew increasingly suspicious of Captain Yan, so he secretly followed him and discovered him meeting with the chairman. Seeing his respected predecessor betray the nation broke his heart. The 3 keys were finally gathered. Inscribed on them were the coordinates of a secret room. The door slowly opened before their eyes. Inside was a collection of rare antiques and a large sum of money, assets enough to shake a nation's economy. Chairman Seung Yi's celebration was cut short by the arrival of Prosecutor Lin with an arrest warrant. With his prosecutorial authority, he could detain suspects, even Captain Yan, without hesitation. He gave the traitor a warning punch. If he had anything to say, he could say it in court. Chairman Seung Yi remained confident even in custody. He relied on high-ranking connections to pressure Prosecutor Lin into releasing him, but the prosecutor had anticipated this and prepared countermeasures. Even the minister couldn't help him escape. Unexpectedly, Mrs. Mihun arrived at the interrogation room with a defense attorney. She demanded Seung Yi's release, citing unlawful arrest and damage to the country's international relations. She presented documentation related to the company's business, all seemingly proving Seung Yi's innocence. Thus, Prosecutor Lin was forced to release him. At this point, Captain Yan had to reveal the truth. Collaborating with Chairman Seung Yi was Plan B, a last resort. Abandoning Seung Yi was the optimal solution. The captain had to sacrifice his reputation to root out the weeds within the intelligence agency. Sol Wu returned to his role as an intelligence agent. The clue his predecessor left hidden behind a painting was found in the room. The words contained a path, hinting at the famous painting of the angel and the devil. He coldly slashed the canvas with a knife, revealing a hidden diagram. Armed with this vital information, Sol Wu infiltrated the chairman's room. Seung Yi was shocked to see him alive. But his purpose wasn't revenge, it was a transaction. Instead of being used as a pawn in Chairman Yan's schemes, he proposed a replacement, himself. More than anyone, he understood his own capabilities and combat skills. All it would take was a reasonable price, and they could get down to business. Seeing the chairman's face change color at the mention of the congressman's name, he surmised that the tape of the illicit transaction hadn't been found yet. Otherwise, the congressman would be disgraced, not still at large. Seung Yi remained skeptical. Could he trust someone who had once been his enemy? Sensing his hesitation, he proposed a test: try to trap Captain Yan. If the captain fell for it, it would prove his sincerity, and their partnership could begin. There was still a puzzle to solve. Someone had impersonated his deceased senior agent to send him a message. This person's objective was also the missing tape, seeking to gain complete control over him. The message threatened his loved ones. This was the Achilles heel every agent tried to keep hidden. No matter what, he would return to his role as a bodyguard. Prosecutor Lin would be responsible for uncovering the mastermind's identity. His first target was the old fox, currently busy campaigning for the Xi'an mayoral election. To whitewash his past wrongdoings, the old man had staged a public display of contrition, a performance that made Prosecutor Lin's skin crawl. He crashed the event, telling the old man to come to the prosecutor's office and confess everything. After a few psychological maneuvers to determine if the old man was the sender of the message, he was certain it was someone else. Suddenly, Captain Y appeared at the studio, furious, demanding to know what he was doing there. Didn't he understand the implications of being shot? But Sol Wu refused to be a passive victim. He would end this fight himself and uncover the true identity of the message sender. Sol Wu went to the chairman's office to see the results of the test. As he'd predicted, Captain Yan was working for the intelligence agency. He told the chairman that if he wanted to eliminate the old man, he should contact him. Yesterday's comrade, today's enemy. He could be anyone's shadow. After leaving the office, the chairman went to the church where the agents met. Father Mitchell had given him a warning letter. It was best not to touch what had driven his senior, Agent Lim, to ruin. If he had the chance, he should disappear and live a normal life, trusting no one. Meanwhile, the congressman had also begun to act. He had his men kidnap the conglomerate's CFO, wanting information on the location of the chairman's secret documents and leveraging him to testify about the conglomerate's slush fund. This was a stab in the back for Chairman Seung Yi. The operation had officially begun. When he captured the CFO, he brought him to Prosecutor Lin to hand over the confidential documents. All the evidence of the slush fund was gathered there. Captain Y was furious that he'd been outmaneuvered. He also arranged for the recording of the conversation to be delivered to the old man, a death blow to the congressman's political career. Chairman Seung Yi was pleased with the results. All the confidential documents were delivered to him. In return, he would receive $5 million as a transaction fee. Seeing that the plan had succeeded without him, Captain Y submitted his resignation to the director. He would retire from the agency and live in seclusion. All hope now rested on Sol Wu's shoulders. Following the clue the investigator had given before disappearing, the final answer would be found on the 58th floor. Surprisingly, the person there was Yoon, or rather, Senior Agent Ghost. She was also surprised he'd uncovered the secret so quickly. Sol Wu began to explain. The sender of the message knew his identity intimately. It was she who had collaborated with Captain Yan to install him as a bodyguard. She was also aware of all his actions during his operations. To achieve this, one needed a special identity, a long-term undercover agent. It was his deceased senior who had chosen Ma Yoon to become a ghost agent. He was a good man who had always cared for her. Putting the past aside, the two now needed to find the item left behind by the late chairman. It was the only clue to locating the missing tape. Even someone with Prosecutor Lin's extensive experience in the intelligence agency was unaware of her true identity, a woman who readily weaponized her beauty. Since resigning from the agency, she had always operated alone, a pragmatist driven by survival. During Woon Guang's accident, she hadn't hesitated to marry Chairman Seung Yi to protect herself and safeguard what she held most dear. On his way home, Prosecutor Lin received an unexpected call from the director. He wanted Lin to personally report on all matters related to the operation. As his superior, Lin didn't question the director's request. The operation would involve Seung-yi, and even though he was her husband, she was prepared to eliminate anyone who stood in her way. He called her to his office and revealed the hidden cameras installed behind the wall. There was a secret office dedicated to recording illegal transactions. This served both as an insurance policy and the source of the Mi-Yoon Corporation's power. She was curious why her husband would reveal such a crucial company secret, but since she was about to take over as the director of the foundation, he disclosed everything. After observing the inside of the secret room, Sol-woo noticed hunting trophies adorning the walls. Even the guns had dragon engravings. He wondered if any of the corporation's properties were suitable for hunting. According to the classified documents he'd obtained, there was a nearby mountain the late chairman frequented. Sol-woo decided to investigate, posing as an environmental worker. According to the villagers, his predecessor had also investigated the mountain, taking 3 days to climb and return. Before leaving, Sol-woo noted the engravings on the guns. The villagers said all the guns there had similar engravings, but they didn't know their significance. Meanwhile, Mi-Yoon had determined that the item left by the late chairman was his will. It was to be given to the new chairman upon succession. While the plan was proceeding smoothly, an unexpected incident occurred. Congressman B had Mi-Yoon's son kidnapped. Fortunately, Sol-woo had anticipated this and went to rescue the boy. To see her son, he demanded that Mi-Yoon come alone. He entrusted the boy to Woon-gwang. Despite being furious that he acted independently without informing her, Mi-Yoon was grateful for his rescuing her son. She also delivered the secret will to him. On the other hand, Seung-yi continued to play the role of the aggrieved parent to deceive Congressman B. This was his counterattack against the cunning politician. All of the congressman's confessions were recorded on camera. Zong-dur was curious how Sol-woo had anticipated the congressman's plan, but for Sol-woo, it was merely fulfilling their previous agreement thoroughly, repaying a debt. Zong-dur decided to gift Sol-woo the third wooden statue and offered him a permanent position. Sol-woo happily accepted the gift and told him to contact him for any new dealings. Returning to his base, Sol-woo examined the chairman's will. The paper bore no visible traces. It had been thoroughly processed. It was a will written by the late chairman himself. Though concise, it was written in the style of a lone hunter. Leaving behind a final message, he had finally solved the mystery. Simultaneously, the director arranged a meeting with Prosecutor Lin. Lin carried all the evidence he possessed. Because of this, the director had Lin ambushed. Despite being in hiding, Captain Yan received the photo Lin had sent. He immediately called to warn Lin, but it was too late. Lin frantically drove to the supposed meeting point for the main transaction. The director had colluded with Seung-yi to retrieve the missing tapes. Prosecutor Lin's condition was critical, the prognosis grim. Seeing his closest comrade harmed, Sol-woo couldn't maintain his composure. He understood this was the work of traitors. Despite being trained to keep his emotions separate from his missions, he couldn't forget the memories of their joint operations. Lin had been a friend, a brother, and a respected mentor. If he didn't avenge this, when would he? The next morning, the Intelligence Bureau raided his base. Everything was turned upside down, but he was nowhere to be found. Prosecutor Lin was falsely accused of being a traitor by the bureau chief. Even Captain Yan, despite having resigned, was summoned. Do-ha had a bad feeling about her boyfriend. Suddenly, Mi-Yoon called her to inform her of the location of the former chairman's funeral. Fearing he would go there seeking revenge for his fallen comrades, Mi-Yoon called from a mountain far from the ceremony. He was secretly observing every move of the traitor. He coldly pulled out his specialized sniper rifle, aiming directly at the traitor's head. The safety was off, the gun was loaded. He only needed to pull the trigger to send him to meet his maker. Suddenly, Woon-gwang and his girlfriend appeared at the ceremony, causing a commotion. Security personnel gathered in front of the bureau chief to protect him. Woon-gwang called him, urging him to reconsider. If he went through with this, Prosecutor Lin would be forever branded a traitor. No matter how angry he was, he should stop. Justice should be served through the law. After successfully preventing his outburst, Woon-gwang went to the hospital where the prosecutor was being treated. He had a few words for the reporters gathered there. All accusations against Prosecutor Lin were false. He was the most righteous prosecutor in South Korea. News outlets exploded after the famous actor's statement. But amidst the commotion, no one noticed the hospital room. He disguised himself as a doctor to visit his senior. Despite being a top-tier agent, he was discovered by the prosecutor's wife. She knew his identity as her husband's colleague, the junior who always gave him a headache. She revealed that the doctors gave him 3 days, but he wasn't that weak. He would recover strongly from this setback. Sol Wu assured her that he would handle everything according to the law. He would catch them all. That very evening, he infiltrated the bureau chief's house. He went there only to declare war. He wouldn't kill him, but he would make his life a living hell. After leaving, he met with Ma Yun. He wanted to confirm that the operation would continue, even if her husband was involved. Ma Yun understood that it was time to end this long war. Therefore, she would help him find a copy of the bureau chief's weakness. The next day, bodyguard Kim returned to work, seemingly unaffected despite being actively pursued by the intelligence bureau. Meanwhile, the bureau chief revealed Ma Yun's identity to the chairman. She was the one he had sent to gather intelligence. Though he was reluctant to believe it, all the evidence pointed to her being an agent, according to the intelligence he possessed. Recently, she had also been assisting him in the operation. Despite his love for his wife, Seung Yi had to test her. He asked her what she thought of the intelligence bureau chief. Unaware of anything, Ma Yun answered honestly. He then revealed the bureau chief's weakness, which was stored in a safe, a perfect trap he didn't want his wife to fall into. However, things didn't go as planned. After Ma Yun seemingly fell into the trap, the chairman's men checked her bag but found nothing. This bewildered Seung Yi. Relying on her experience as a top agent, Ma Yun had detected her husband's deception. She successfully stole the confidential document to exchange with the bureau chief. Sol Wu also had to act. The next step of the plan involved him and Woon Guang conducting a live interview with Chairman Seung Yi. He even carefully prepared a homemade bomb to conclude the operation. Disguised as a crew member, he approached the chairman with his homemade bomb. He managed to subdue him. He sincerely advised him not to do anything foolish or try to escape. Only the truth could save him. Facing the chairman was his wife's former lover, who would be directly participating in the interview. At the same time, the corrupt chief of police arrived at the chairman's office, the location for the deal with Agent Ma Yun. She wanted him to hear the consequences of his actions. The interview heated up when Woon Guang revealed the chairman's 2 attempts to assassinate him. This revelation caused a public uproar. Despite his denials, there was no escape. Woon Guang produced a pen containing a recording of the chairman ordering his elimination. Chaos erupted. As the chief attempted to leave, he received a call from Sol Wu. He was warned that a bomb planted under the desk would detonate if he hung up or ran. Angrily, he demanded to know what Sol Wu wanted. The cold reply, revenge. The interview, still broadcasting live, captured the chief's bluster, which quickly turned to anxiety as the evidence mounted. Seung Yi frantically denied the accusations, claiming ignorance and blaming others. Seeing his stubbornness, Sol Wu made a gesture as if to detonate the bomb, emphasizing the immediate threat to the chief's life. Left with no choice, he confessed. The mastermind behind everything was the director of the National Intelligence Service. The revelation infuriated the chairman, feeling betrayed. To prove his claim, he produced a recording of the director's orders. Now, he was like a demon unleashed, urging Sol Wu to detonate the bomb regardless of the consequences. Sol Wu agreed, on one condition. He calmly pressed the detonator, but nothing happened. It was a ruse. The detonator activated a hidden camera in a secret room, recording the chairman's confession. Captain Yan immediately ordered his arrest for treason. The interview ended with Sol Wu victorious, and the chairman taken into police custody. After a long battle following his accident, Prosecutor Lin miraculously awoke. In recognition of his contributions, the president awarded him the Medal of Honor, a tribute to a true hero. Captain Yan was reinstated. The NIS branch was shut down. He gave Sol Wu a month to consider whether he wanted to continue this line of work. Following a thorough investigation, the traitors received their just punishment. Du Ha and her boyfriend finally had some time together, but duty called once more. Sol Wu was informed of a new mission by a foreign agent, a large-scale international operation. Though hesitant, he chose to serve his country, sacrificing personal time with his loved one to protect his nation. This battle was over, but life continued. Sol Wu would go abroad for this urgent mission. The world always needs heroes, but Agent Kim would surely return one day. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you again in our next production.